Hey guys, OGL Binding here. Bring you guys our GDL Season 2 Week 3 battle against Clutch sometimes and his Kansas City Kingdras. Clutch recently did take over for Leo, aka 6 Tax, our co-commissioner. Fortunately, he had to step down just due to some real-life circumstances. We definitely wish him the best. Hope he's back soon and all that good stuff. But we're going to be playing against the team that he drafted pre-transactions that Clutch made. So obviously, he's not going to be the most comfortable with the team he didn't draft, but I think it's a really, really good team. It was one of my highest ranked in the PRs that me and Leo did. So we definitely got our work cut out for us. We definitely have a very interesting matchup. So really quick before I jump in, I do want to mention that only a good 30 to 35% of you guys who are watching the videos are actually subscribed. So if you haven't done so already and you're enjoying the videos, be sure to drop a sub. It's free. It helps me out and lets me know that you enjoy what I'm doing and all that good stuff. But yeah, with that being said, let's go ahead and jump into a quick little team battle just so you can see what we're bringing, why we're bringing it, and all that good stuff going into the matchup so you can have that background knowledge. Our team, if you did forget, consists of Kelvio, Scizor, Doug Trio, Drapeon, Rotamo, Talonflame, Dublade, Orbeetle, Rhydon, Drampa, and Gmax Alcremie, while our opponent's team consists of Mew, Cinderace, Mamoswine, Scolipede, Starmie, Comfey, Goodra, Rotomfan, Trevenant, Vullaby, and Gmax Paparaja. Now, biggest concerns off the bat, it's a Mew. Mew is terrifying because there's a plethora of sets that can really do me dirty. Like a bulk up set, very terrifying for me to deal with. Like really terrifying for me to deal with. Cinderace, another Pokemon I don't switch into particularly well. We have Rhydon, which is a decent check, and we have Victory to potentially trap it, but it is very, very scary nonetheless. Scolipede in the endgame, if Rhydon and Dublade get chipped down, very good versus us. Goodra, a little bit of a pain for us to deal with offensively, a lot. It just kind of naturally loses everything we want to throw at it. And Gmax Paparaja is a big threat because it can chew any one hit, and it has a coverage move for everything on my team. So that's obviously not going to be fun to deal with, but I think we do have a pretty good squad to potentially take on Clutch's team and hopefully pull out a W. So first off, we do have our Gmax Mon, Gmax Alcremie, rocking out with the Love Ball. Aroma Veil as its ability, Dazzling Gleam, Recover, Mystical Fire, and Calm Mind. EVs wise, we got 212 HP, 164 special attack, and 132 speed with a modest nature. This Pokemon actually does phenomenally in this matchup. My opponent does not have a switch into Fairy plus Fire coverage whatsoever. So once we can get up one Calm Mind and Gmax up, we can actually potentially do a lot of damage. We really do take on a Mew pretty decently. We can live hit from Scolipede in our max form and obviously max flare that thing into the next dimension. Same thing with the Paparaja, especially if it's running weight-based moves opposed to Iron Head, Cheer Horse, or stuff like that. We can actually wall it when we Gmax up, which is really cool. But if that thing burns Gmax, it drops to a max flare really easily, and it takes a lot from a +1 Mystical Fire as well. I don't remember the calc off the top of my head, but we'll obviously see that in a little bit when we get into the game. This Pokemon's a great win con, especially if Scolipede's gone. Not much really stops this thing from going crazy. Cinderace is the only thing that resists these these coverage moves together, but it doesn't resist them very well in all honesty, especially when we max out. So that's going to be Alcremie this week. Next up, we got the trio rocking out the Choice Band. Arena Trap is its ability, Earthquake, Sucker Punch, Stone Edge, and Memento. EVs wise, we are rocking out with 188 attack, 68 defense, and 252 speed with a Jolly Nature. We are here to trap things. My opponent does not have good ground type resist actually, which is really nice. Their ground resist is Trevenant and Vullaby. So if we can trap a Mew, trap a Cinderace, trap a Scolipede, something like that, trap a Starmie even, that could be really solid versus. And this thing's main goal though is to trap that Gmax Paparaja. Obviously we don't kill it when it Gmaxes up, but we do a lot of damage to it with the band, and if we can burn the Gmax or get chip on it before we come in, we can obviously trap it in that sense as well. So this is a very important member to the team this week. Next up, we got Dublade rocking out the EV Light No Guard ability, Swords Dance, Shadow Snake, Iron Head, and Sacred Sword. EVs wise, we got 244 HP, 156 attack, 4 defense, 20 super def, and 84 speed with an Adamant Nature. Now this thing is pretty much our main Scolipede check, because obviously Rhydon can check it decently, Earthquake kind of bounces off a little bit, but Aqua Tail doesn't, and Dublade can cover both of those decently enough. We're can take it on a fair bit amount. It also gives us priority, which is really nice. It also gives us Mon to decently take on the Gmax Paparaja. We aren't to a KO by it when it's not in its max form, which is really nice. And in the endgame, if we can pick things off and weaken some things down, +2 sneaks and Iron Heads and Sacred Swords are really going to do a lot of damage. We should potentially outspeed a Paparaja unless it's running a lot of speed. So all we really need to do is chip things like Mew, Cinderace, Mamo, stuff like that, and we can honestly just kind of win with Dublade in the endgame. So it's another very solid win con in itself. Next up, we got Drapeon rocking out the Black Sludge, Battle Armor ability, Knock Off, Poison Jab, Toxic Spikes, and Roar. EVs wise, we got max HP, 36 attack, 28 defense, and 188 speed with a jolly nature. This is going to be our main mute check. This is going to be our way of stopping it from really getting out of hand. We can always take a +1 hit depending on, you know, whether it's physical or special, I believe. Like I was going to be off. We have T-Spikes because Scolipede does exist, but I think my team deals with Scolipede pretty well between Rhydon, Dublade, and Scizor, which is obviously really nice. And it needs Rock Slide for a potential Talonflame to, you know, Oklo. We obviously do have the priority in Gale Wings, which is another way to revenge it, which is really, really cool. So I think getting up T-Spikes and really exploiting the rest of my opponent's team is really nice. Other than, they have Defog Comfy, which I don't think comes in all honesty versus my team with the Double Steel and the Talonflame and things like that. It's kind of really exploitable if it does. Rotom Fan can come as a defogger, but, you know, I think I do have a lot for that Rhydon kind of hard balls it, even if it is Will-O-Wisp, we will always pretty much beat that thing 1v1. And then the Spin Starmie, which can actually spin block with our Dublades, feeling extra risky and stuff like that. And that thing does potentially have to come in and take that T-Spike poison while it tries to spin away and take a bunch of chip, put itself in range of Shadow Sneak, which is obviously really nice. So I think Drapeon's very solid and kind of just being a don't lose to Mew button, if that makes any sense at all. Next up, we got a Rhydon rocking out the Eviolite. Rockhead has its ability, Earthquake, Stealth Rock, Rock Blast, and Roar. EVs wise, we are rocking out with 244 HP, 116 attack, 60 defense, 44 speed def, and 44 speed with an adamant nature. This thing is going to serve as our main Cinderace check. It's going to serve as a backup check to the Scolipede. It's here to get up rocks. It's here to roar things around. And hopefully spread some chip damage around my opponent's team. I don't expect it to be around forever, but as long as we get that Cinderace in range of our Doug Trio, you know, being able to trap it, obviously. It could be Shed Shell or Shuckleberry, but it does need to just take a little, like one Rock Switch and a little bit more to die to a band Earthquake if it is. Or we can put in range of our Dublade. That's obviously really, really nice for us. So I think Rhydon's very solid and just kind of being an early game pivot, getting up rocks, being really annoying for our opponent's team. And then lastly, we have our Wincon, which is going to be Katniss, the Talonflame, rocking out the heavy duty boots, Gale Wings, its ability, dual being the Roost, Bulk Up, and Flare Blitz. We got 140 HP, 244 attack, and 124 speed with a jolly nature. Now, this thing is phenomenal versus my opponent. They do not have much for a Bulk Up Talonflame, especially when the Copperajah pops its G-Max. We get a little bit of chip on Starmie. It's a great Cinderace check. We get a little bit of chip on Mammo and Mew and stuff like that. We can honestly do really, really well with this Pokemon. We can really exploit that Scolipede as well, which I think is very important. So, I'm hoping Talonflame can end up taking home this egg game for us, but yeah. That's the team. Let's jump right into the battle. Alright guys, here we are with the battle. Now, as you can see, unfortunately, this is going to be a post-com. When I got into the battle, about 30 seconds in, my headset died, ran out of batteries, so I had to charge it, and I didn't realize it obviously all the way throughout the battle, so there's about 30 seconds of audio during that. So what we're going to be doing is going over the game in a post-com. I apologize, live comms will be back next week for sure. I've actually already played my week 4, so I know for a fact they're coming back. But we are here going up against Clutch, as you all know. The team he elected to bring is Mew, G-Max, Copperajah, Mamoswine, Starmie, Cinderace, and Rotom Fan. Very, very, very understandable. All these Pokemon do great versus me, though the one thing I did notice is there is no Scolipede, and that is amazing. That takes a lot of pressure off my Dublade to where I can check the Copperajah and at least waste some G-Max turns for it. And it makes our T-Spikes incredibly free, which is awesome. So what I'm going to do, obviously, is I'm going to end up leading off with my, let's skip past the team preview. I'm going to end up leading off with my Drapeon, just because I know I can get up T-Spikes, and the only unfavorable lead for me to where I can't really get up T-Spikes is going to be against that Mamoswine, which obviously we want to switch out on. But leads off with Starmie. This is a great lead for us, because what I'm going to do is just set up my T-Spikes and kind of go from there. Because, once again, Clutch doesn't have the best way of dealing with this. He does obviously have the Starmie to spin, the Rotom to potentially defog, but the Starmie is very pressured this game, and if I can get damage off on it while it tries to spin and get up, you know, T-Spikes later, that's obviously great. And it's a spinner that does not beat my hazards, my Toxic Spike sitter, so that's obviously really nice. We're gonna have to position ourselves to where it doesn't get in freely on the Rhydon too much, but like I said, these Toxic Spikes are going to be great, as I do end up setting them up right here, as Clutch does end up switching out into the Copperajah, and this is a bit of a sticky situation for us, in all honesty, because I don't have switch-ins to this. I can kind of pivot around it, try and waste its G-Max turns, and as soon as its G-Max turns are gone, I can trap it with Dougie. But I don't want to try and go hard Dougie. Obviously, I dropped to pretty much any hit that this thing wants to go for, and I don't have great pivots into it otherwise. So This puts us in a really tough situation. What I'm going to do right here is I'm going to go Dublade. Like I mentioned before, no Scolipede makes this thing much more expendable. I thought about going Talonflame, but it's so ridiculously good in this game, I didn't think I should risk it that early on at the very least. So I figured Dublade was nice because if he's max Quake, he actually doesn't 2-hit KOs. If he's max Flare, he does because of the Sun boost. But honestly, it's not the biggest deal in the world because, like I said, not the best member on our team. It would be nice to spin block the Starmie, so it's going to make keeping the T-Spikes up on my opponent's side of the field a little bit harder if we're wasting G-Max turns with our Dublade opposed to something else. But in all honesty, it's completely fine because we should be able to waste a good amount of these turns right here. So I'm going to go hard Dublade as Clutch is going to G-Max on up in our face and obviously put a world of hurt on our team. This thing is an amazing G-Max captain, especially in the tier that it's sitting at in tier 2. It's absolutely phenomenal. So G-Max Copperage is going to come out. It's going to get big on us. It's going to yell at us really quick. It's so much hard to do post-comms with the long drawn-out animations, that's for sure. But what's going to happen is he's going to throw off a Max Flare. I know I won't die to this, but unfortunately, because he's Max Flare, not Max Quake in this turn, I will not be able to live the second one, unfortunately. I think it might have been a roll to live 2 Max Flares anyways, looking at that damage, but he also could have gotten a high roll, who knows. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to hope I'm faster. I am pretty fast on this Dublade here, as you guys saw in the team builder. So I should be able to get off a little bit of chip, and obviously just kind of chip it down in range of other things. But like I said, as soon as this thing's G-Max is gone, I can trap it with Dougie, like, immediately. And unless he's, like, Max Fish Def, I pretty much always OHKO that thing, which is also obviously really nice. But gotta throw off that Sacred Sword, hopefully get a little bit of chip off, knowing my Dublade is probably going to go down, unfortunately. But 'tis the game we play. It's all good. We should be fine from here. As Clutch definitely taking it out, I'm gonna go for Sacred Sword. Do a tiny bit of damage, not the most, a good 25%, so that maybe was a 2-hit KO if he wasn't maxed up, but obviously he was, and now Dublade is going to just drop to this Copperage. So we're down 1 mon, but we're still in decent position. We still have our T-Spikes up, but this dang Copperage still has a turn of G-Max left, and that's absolutely terrifying. We don't have much to really take a hit from this, so we're going to have to kind of maneuver around it and play around it. To better effect than we did the Hatterene last week when we tried to pivot around it. But I'm going to do the same kind of deal. I'm going to go Rhydon right here. Obviously knowing this thing can do a lot of damage to me with a Max Steel Surge and just OHKO me with a Max Overgrowth. But what I'm going to do is a play that covers both of those and it also covers the Max Ground. And I'm going to go hard into my Talonflame. Now he can definitely catch me right here, go for a Max Rockfall, and that would be really bad because losing Dublade and Talonflame, 2 of our better win cons in this game, would be very brutal. But what it's going to allow me to do is just go Talonflame right here, as fortunately we do get that pivot correctly and we do play that right against this Copperage. We're going to absolutely chew this Max Overgrowth. It's not going to do anything to us, obviously, because of our 4 times resistance and obviously being a pretty bulky Talonflame in our EV spread and stuff like that. And from here, we're actually in a pretty good position because what this is going to allow us to do is throw off the freest of Flare Blitz because this is in the sun. There's nothing that switches in on this. Starmie should die to T-Spike Poison plus Sun Boosted Flare Blitz plus Dual Wing Beat. Unless it's like Max Fizz Def Starmie, which obviously wouldn't be fun. And the Cinderace gets 2-hit KO'd pretty easily, and we obviously set up all over that thing. The Rotom Fan should be 2-hit KO'd as well. So this is going to be a really big hit off that we're going to get on something. And if it also gives us the Copperage, that's great, because this is a mon I don't pivot into very well. Granted, when it doesn't have its G-Max anymore, my team pretty much outspeeds it and pressures it immensely. But if we waste our G-Max on our Hatterene, our Alcremie, we can potentially not OHKO with a Mystical Fire pretty well. So it could be a potential decent check to that in the end game as well. So getting rid of this thing is obviously really nice, and it puts us in a solid position because not really much wants to come in on big Talonflame here. So we're going to be able to put on a lot of offensive pressure. As Clutch is definitely weighing his options over. He takes a lot of time in this early game, which is something I did take into account while I was playing. His timer was a lot lower than mine at this point. But he is going to go out into the Rotom Fan. Again, completely fine, because all I'm going to do is I'm going to throw up a big Flare Blitz, and this is going to do a ton. But also revealing it's a very bulky Rotom, an incredibly bulky Rotom. That is a almost max attack Talonflame. Flare Blitz in the sun, barely 2-hit KOing, but my only issue is I don't know if this is like a bulky Scarf set, and I don't want to risk that because I figure Talonflame is my best way of winning this game right now. So I'm going to go into the very free Rhydon, just because I feel like it's my best play overall, you know, covering both, as Clutch makes a phenomenal double, and doubles out into his Starmie. This is going to allow him to spin, and it's going to allow him to at least put on some, pretty decent offensive pressure on our team as well, because we don't have the best switch into Starmie on this squad. So very, very good play by him. It's a great double, especially with the grass terrain up. Even if we call him going for the rapid spin, EQ's absolutely going to bounce off at this point. So we do kind of have to, pick a switch into this, and I figure my best switch in right now is going to be my Alcremie. Can definitely take on 2 Scalds, and this thing is probably a little bit bulkier of a variant and things like that, and I'm assuming it wants to either spin or flip turn right now anyways. So I figured Alcremie would be pretty safe, because there's not a lot of things that come in on Alcremie afterwards. Right here, I am going to go, they are going to go for a rapid spin as they go Alcremie. This is fine. I still have my Drapeon at full health, and I can still just get up T-Spikes later on. So I'm not super worried. I'm assuming this thing will probably be Natural Cure, being that it looks to be a little bit more bulky, with the leftovers obviously popping there. And it being a spin variant. Obviously, offensive spin sets can definitely be a thing, but I figured on this build in particular, this thing's probably a little bit more bulky. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm just going to click Calm Mind. I should be able to do a lot of damage to whatever comes in. I should claim at least 1 kill with my Alcremie right here, and even potentially save it later. And depending on things go, it could claim a couple right here. That's obviously phenomenal for my Talonflame in the back. If I start chipping these things down, we're going to be in a really good spot. So Calm Mind's pretty free. The Scald is going to be absolutely bouncing off me, and the next turn I can G-Max up, take even less, and gain pretty much all the health back. So out goes the Starmie, knowing it's probably fodder for me. Charlotte probably doesn't have flip turn as well, and out comes the Cinderace, which is going to be my opponent's only, fairy plus fire resist. But you're going to see right here, it doesn't really matter with this Alcremie, because it's going to just be able to muscle through this thing due to its low, natural bulk that it really has, and how strong Alcremie is, and how, invested we really are. So we're going to be in a pretty decent spot from here, and be able to, throw off a big hit, as I am going to just max up, and I'm going to G-Max Finale. This should always 2-hit KO Cinderace, unless it's a very bulky AV set. So we're going to be able to G-Max up, and just throw off a big hit, which is obviously nice. Obviously, this is going to do a lot. Cinderace is a strong Pokemon. If we weren't maxed up, it actually, always 2-hit KO. It did a ton. But thanks to the G-Max, we're going to be able to take a lot less, and obviously be in a good spot. So G-Max, or Pyro Ball is going to come out. Still does a ton, good 40%, and it's going to get the burn, which is really unfortunate that it ended up getting that 10% burn, because it's going to make our recovery from a G-Max Finale not as nice, and it's just going to kind of hinder us throughout the rest of the game, as you're going to see, and really start chipping us down a bunch. But that G-Max Finale does a ridiculous amount of damage. We get up a lot of HP, and I would love to not get burned, because we'd be even at a little bit higher, especially after this next Pyro Ball. Though, one good thing about getting a little bit lower roll there potentially is that we did not put him into Blaze range, which is really important, because it means we're going to do even, it's going to still continue to do the same amount of damage opposed to a ridiculous amount. So Cinderace is going to use Pyro Ball. We're going to use G-Max Finale one more time, and we'll get up a little bit of health and completely knock this thing out, which is awesome. And we'll still have one more turn of G-Max, which means we'll be able to do a ridiculous amount of damage to whatever wants to come in. So we're going to get back up to about half, though. The burn is going to put us back down below, unfortunately. But like I said, nothing on the team really OHKOs us from this point. So we're still sitting pretty, in all honesty. We're not in a bad spot at all. So Coach is going to kind of think here, what do I go into? If he goes into Mamoswine, I think I probably even OHKO it with that. If he goes into Starmie, I think I OHKO it with that. If he goes into literally any, if he goes into Capraja, I can Max Flare, so maybe he could try and pivot around. But he's going to go into the Mew, which is completely fair. And this made me think, this thing is probably Calm Mind, which is really unfortunate. I don't deal well with Calm Mind Mew, in all honesty. But I'm going to throw off a G-Max Finale in the case that it is not. And that would do about 70%, but the Mew is going to show Calm Mind, which is, again, very unfortunate, because it's going to make this G-Max Finale do so much less damage, to the point where if this thing's Psyshock, it actually 100% beats us 1v1, and that's not a risk I really want to take at this point. So G-Max Finale is going to come off. It's going to do around 50-ish, 45-50% to this thing, which is good chip, because what it's going to do is going to force this thing into a potential Rouge turn, which I think is very important, and it's going to give us a free switch out, because, like I said, I can lose to this thing 1v1, and I don't want to let this thing get to +6 and just beat me. So I'm going to go hard out into my Drapeon this next turn, because if it, sets up another Calm Mind, I can roar it out. If it sets up, anything really, I can just kind of roar it out. And this also covers the Psyshock play right now, because a +1 Psyshock, honestly, I think knocks out our Alcremie from this range. So figured I can save this Alcremie either a sack fodder for later, or to potentially set up on the Starmie later. If you can just get like some T-Spikes up and chip the Mew down, it can still definitely win the end game. So we're not in the worst spot in the world. So out comes Drapeon. once again, as the Mew does end up going for a Roost, which is completely fair. What I'm going to do is I'm going to Roar. As much as I want to get up my T-Spikes once again, I figured that Roar might be my best play, just simply because it prevents this thing from really getting out of hand. If I set up a T-Spike and it Calm Minds again, it can actually potentially OHKO us, which is obviously not a good time. And yeah, so I figured that the Roar was going to be our best play at this point. As I am going to contemplate it, though, because I really did want to get up my T-Spikes. I figured he might switch out. He showed to be lefties, too, so it doesn't want to take a knockoff. Doesn't know how invested I am, all that good stuff. But I know, actually, I probably can't do a KO this thing either if it's bulky enough. So out comes the Mamoswine. Very aggressive switch in. Trying to either get in my T-Spikes or my knockoff. But I'm just going to Roar because, you know, like I said, the Mew is a big threat. And that's awesome because forcing that thing out is really, really good for our squad. So what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to get up a T-Spike. I know I'm not OHKO'd by this Copperajah, and I think getting on my T-Spikes are very, very important in this endgame, letting things like Talonflame potentially out Creamy, set up and win, and, you know, be in a good spot from there. In all honesty, I don't really have switch-ins to this thing, so I can get up a T-Spike this turn, sack out Creamy next turn, and then be in a decent spot, which is kind of my game plan right now. As he does end up going for a Rock Slide, trying to predict our Talonflame. That's definitely a fair play. I could have 100% gone into it expecting a ground move or a steel move or something like that. But again, I don't have switch-ins to this Copperajah, and I'm not going to risk my win con in order to take it on. So what I'm going to do is, with a heavy heart, sack our Creamy. Despite it being pretty good in this endgame, I figure it's slower than Mamoswine. Mamoswine can revenge us pretty easily. We lose to the Mew. We obviously don't take this thing on very well unless we get up to +1 first. And there's just kind of a lot of things that really stop out Creamy from winning the game, unfortunately, at this point, since we already wasted our G-Max in order to take out the Cinderace, which was obviously not a good time. So I am going to go into my out Creamy this time, try and sack it off. As you're going to see, Clutch is once again going to go for a Rock Slide, really, really trying to catch my Talonflame and get that thing out of the picture, which is, again, 100% fair. Talonflame is so good in this endgame if I can position it correctly, so I understand him trying to make that play, and it still does a lot in Drapeon. Drapeon's not doing much back, so definitely very, very fair. What I'm going to do right here is a bit questionable. I'm going to, I was contemplating between Recover and Mystical Fire, mainly because I don't really want to kill this thing. I don't want to let in the Mew for free on my Alcremie. I kind of want to die right here, and I was scared that the Mystical Fire might kill. I wasn't really calculating because I was kind of, you know, a little bit flustered on where I was at, though I should have, as you see, my time's a lot higher than Clutch's right here, but I do click Recover right here, kind of hoping to bait him into the Iron Head, as we are going to recover once more, get back up to a decent amount of health, as I believe he is once again going to click Rock Slide, thinking we're going to try and pivot around and save that thing. But again, the Alcremie was at, like, you know, 10-15%, and the rest of my team did not take on the Copperajah very well at all. So I'm going to throw off a Mystical Fire this turn. I figured I might as well get some chip. It probably was my play the first time, in all honesty. It was probably my better play. And I guess the Rock Slide could have also killed my Alcremie from that range, so that's very fair for him to click that instead. But, yep, this turn, definitely going to go down to an Iron Head. Down we go. Alcremie's going to drop right here. But we got a lot of damage off on the Copperajah, and what this is going to allow us to do, it's going to allow us to go into Big Dougie and do a lot of damage to this team right here. Like I said before, his team does not have a switch in to ground types, especially because he didn't bring the Trevenant, he didn't bring the Volibee, or anything like that. We can kind of just click a free Banded EQ and do a lot of damage, especially because the T-Spike is up. That Mew is going to be 2-hit KO most likely after T-Spike, and we're going to be able to do a lot of damage. But this thing obviously can't be Shed Shell though, so I don't know what I'm saying. Obviously, we're going to be able to trap and take out the Copperajah here, so we kind of trade our Alcremie in order to get in Dougie for free and trap the Copperajah, which was, you know, Dougie's whole goal in this game was to kind of trap this thing and potentially trap a Cinderace. And now that both those things are gone, we're in a pretty good spot. So out comes an EQ, and down goes the Copperajah, which is, again, really, really solid for us. So it's really, really great. Now, from here, there's a lot of things that Clutch can go to. He can go to Mamoswine and threaten us out with an Ice Shard, because it definitely does knock out Dougie. We are ridiculously frail on the defensive side. And then he can also go into Starmie, trying to potentially Rapid Spin on us or something like that. In my head, my personal play was going to be to Earthquake, because, what do you call it? If they do end up going into Starmie, because what that's going to allow me to do is get a ridiculous amount of chip on it. Yes, it can spin and get rid of my T-Spike, but if it's not, you know, a max defensive Starmie, or if it's a more offensive variant, I actually kill it with EQ and a Poison right here, and I'll get a lot of damage off regardless. It's not going to be able to out-recover me. Even if it's like a bold defensive Starmie, we should always 2-hit KO this thing pretty well. So we're going to be able to throw off a big, big EQ, And unfortunately, you're going to see this is a very bulky Starmie, incredibly bulky, and is not going to drop to the poison afterwards, as they do end up going for a Scald, though. So Dougie's going to go down for sure, but we do get a lot of damage off on this Starmie, which can potentially stop it from spinning later on. And again, this is one of the bigger roadblocks to my Talonflame. So if we can stop this thing from recovering in this endgame, we're actually in a good spot. So Lefty's going to pop, Poison's going to pop. This is completely fine. My T-Spike is still up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my Talonflame. The reason I go Talonflame is, despite obviously this thing being a good check to me, it's very, very low. And it's the only thing on my team that outspeeds it and stops it from either spinning or recovering up. And I don't want either of those. Obviously, Rhydon doesn't take it on at all. And my Drapeon allows it to allows it to spin away and then go into Mamoswine, and then I'm in a tough position. So I kind of have to go into Talonflame and really hope that I can get this dual wing beat off and not miss. It is 90% accurate, so it is in our favor to obviously hit this move, but you never knew at this point. So he's going to switch it out, potentially saving it to spin later, which is, again, definitely fair, or at least recover up on Rhydon or potentially Scald or something like that, as I am going to throw off a dual wing beat and obviously be able to do a good amount of damage to this Rotom. Now, unfortunately, we're going to be in a tough spot here, because I am going to go Rhydon again. I'm kind of forced to, in my mind, because I'm like, if this thing's Scarf and I lose my Talonflame, the game's over. I have no way of winning at that point. So I could have called it and known, like, there is a Rhydon. This is probably not Scarfed. I don't think that'd be a great bring. But he also could be tricked and, you know, try and cripple me that way, which makes his Cinderace much better. Just a lot of things, in all honesty. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go Rhydon right here, as Clutch is going to, once again, make a great double, go right back out into the Starmie. And this is unfortunate, because I kind of do need this Rhydon. The reason I need the Rhydon is because it's one of my only Pokemon that can even take a hit from the Mamoswine. So I really want to make sure I can do so. But I don't have good switches to the Starmie. I'm leaving myself much more wide open to Mew if I let go of my Drapeon, which is obviously not fun. And yeah, we're honestly in a pretty tough spot. We're in a pretty tough spot. But I should be able to live 2 Scalds from the Starmie if it is not, if it does not catch the burn on me, especially if he's a more defensive variant, which he's kind of shown to be at this point in the game. So we're gonna go hard Drapeon, and what we're gonna do is kind of spam T-Spikes until this thing drops. As he is going to go for Scald, it's a good play, catching my Drapeon, knowing and obviously killing my Rhydon in the process, which obviously wouldn't be fun. But what this is going to do is this next turn is it's going to put the Starmie in range of poison if it does elect to spin. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click T-Spikes, expecting the spin I could have knocked off, but you know, if it ends up recovering this next turn, that's completely fine, because I can just knock it off the next turn. And this lets me get my spin off, which is my T-Spikes off, which are very important for this Mamoswine calc, which you're going to see here in a second. I thought keeping up my T-Spikes would be very important for that. And the Mew in the back, because again, I don't have the most immediate offensive breaking power at this point. But if I can whittle things down and, you know, potentially win with my Talonflame in the end game, we're in a decent spot. We're not in the worst spot in the world. So, Lefty's are going to pop for both of us. His obviously goes first, but due to Poison doing a little bit more than Lefty's, it is going to drop to the Poison. So the T-Spikes came up clutch there, obviously being able to keep them up and knock out that Starmie due to residual, which is really nice. Though now this does allow the Mamo in, and unfortunately the Mamo gets to claim the kill right here. I'm most likely going to just sack off my Drapeon, because it doesn't live a coverage move from the Mew if it's like Earth Power or something like that, which I do potentially expect, because we also have a Dublade, which does make sense, and it hits the, what do you call it, neutrally as well, the Dublade. It could be Flamethrower. There's a lot of things you can do. But I'm just going to click knock off this thing's item. If it's banded, it does not knock me out with Ice Shard here. And I think actually maybe if it was like a max roll, it knocked me out with Ice Shard here if it was banded. I don't remember the exact calc. But regardless, I'm going to be able to get off and knock off here. As you're going to see, it's not banded. It doesn't click Ice Shard. It ends up clicking Earthquake because it was Soft Sand, which is also very fair, because being able to switch up moves on Mamo in this matchup was phenomenal. But what this is going to do is, after Poison, this turn, I go into my Rhydon. I know I definitely don't drop to any move, which is very important. I can kind of come in, I can click Earthquake, and after that turn of Poison, after clicking Earthquake, and after the turn of Poison after that, we should be able to knock out the Mamoswine. And if not, the turn of Poison after that will, and we'll have to kind of just sack off our Rhydon there. So, not the biggest deal in the world, but what we're going to do is we're going to go Rhydon. We are going to click Earthquake. And yeah, we can definitely live anyone hit from this thing, I know for a fact. And I don't think he's going to click Ice Crash and go for Flinch, because the guaranteed damage on this thing is really good, and he still has the Mew in the back to potentially win. So Earthquake's going to pop. It's actually potentially not even a 2-hit KO, because Rhydon is an absolute beast. And we're going to click Earthquake on it, and we're going to bring the Mamoswine right down into range of Poison, which is Great, because now this thing is gone, and our Talonflame is looking a little bit nicer. We still have our pieces to potentially win this game, depending on what's happening. So, down goes the Mamoswine. And what this is going to do in my head is I think maybe the Mew comes in and tries to set up on me, but I do have Roar, so I can always phase it out, which is obviously really, really nice. But the Rotom comes out, and right here I kind of contemplate, are they going to Trick? Are they going to Will-O-Wisp? I almost made the ballsy play right into my Talonflame on the Will-O-Wisp or Trick, but Trick would have been really bad for me, and Will-O-Wisp is going to come out, and this is really unfortunate, because now I'm not going to be able to damage this Mew enough, as I am going to be burned. I am going to click Rock Blast, so Rhydon's going to pick up yet another kill, putting in the finest to work this game, but this is going to put Mew in a really good position, because now it's last mon, and it's going to kind of come in and be able to, you know, really be absolutely obnoxious in trying to set up and things like that. So now we're going to take a burn, and the Mew's going to come in and, you know, just be able to kind of start doing some work to us. 1 second. Sorry, I got a text. As the Mew does come out, it does get poisoned through the T-Spike, but at this point, I kind of do have to hard switch out my Rhydon. I don't want this thing set up to plus 1,000,000. And I'm going to go hard out into my Talonflame. And I kind of have to hope it's Psyshock over Psychic, which I do expect in this matchup because of my Alcremie and stuff like that. But we kind of do just have to hope that it's Psyshock, because then we can potentially bulk up alongside it and actually beat it 1v1. As the Calm Mind is going to come out, we are going to, you know, see get up to +1/+1. And this is really scary because what I'm going to have to do right here is, I forget if I Roost or I bulk up on this turn. Because I know I can take a +1 hit of anything. So potentially I might have Roosted this turn. I completely forget. So we're going to see right here. I'm going to hopefully click a move soon, because I do have to finish up here. This recording is going a little bit longer than I remember. So I do Roost right here, because I know I can take a +1 Psychic from full. And obviously the Psyshock is doing a little bit less, and I can bulk up the turn afterwards. So we are going to Roost on up right here. Get back up to full, but obviously we're going to get away from full, as the Psyshock does end up coming out. It's going to do a good amount to our Talonflame right here, as I am going to end up just bulking up one more time. I mean, this next turn, just because it is going to allow me to live this next one on a roll. So from this 72, remember this 72 HP number. From this amount of HP, it is a 31% chance to knock out my Talonflame with a boosted Psyshock. If they're up +1 on me, regardless of where I'm at, it is a roll. But we're going to bulk up, so actually this never did knock us out at this point, which is obviously really nice. As another Calm Mind is going to come out, and that's really scary, because again, they're kind of boosting past us, but we should win this 1v1, because we're boosting our attack and they're not boosting their defense. So provided that, I apologize, dogs are barking, provided that we do boost up past this and we do get this roll, then we should be in a pretty good position. So we'll see right here, as we are going to end up clicking bulk up one more time. As we're going to bulk up one more time and be able to, you know, hopefully beat this thing 1v1. Because all we have to do is put in range of Poison plus Flare Blitz, and we're in a pretty good spot from here. So we are going to bulk up one more time. Unfortunately, you're going to see right here, though, that 31% chance roll that I was talking about before, Clutch is actually going to get it. And what this is going to do is it's going to pretty much loses the game. Obviously, Rhydon can't beat this thing 1v1 because we are burned at this point, and we're not going to be able to do anything to it in return, because it does have the, you know, the Roost as its option, stuff like that, and we're at a good 50% burn. So obviously, we're not going to be able to beat it from here, unfortunately, and we are going to lose this game 1-0 to Clutch. I think we played well. I think if we actually got that roll, I think we pretty much won. I think a +2 Flare Blitz actually knocked this thing out from there, and we would have been in a great spot, but you know, you win some, you lose some. It's not really hacks at that point. It's just kind of get unlucky with the rolls and, you know, things like that. So unfortunately, 2 Psyshocks is definitely going to be able to take us out. Earthquakes is actually going to bounce off of this thing. It's going to do nothing because we're burned. It's a very defensive Mew. And from there, we are unfortunately going to drop this game to Clutch 1-0. GG's to him. Definitely played the game well. He had a very, very solid team, and he made a couple great doubles there, putting a lot of pressure on me with the Starmie a couple times there, because despite it being defensive, I didn't have great switch-ins to it. So we are going to end up losing to him this week. Hopefully we can bounce back next week. We play SV Tornado, and I really want to pick up a dub that week, man. 2 1-0 losses in a row is, it might have been 2-0 versus Flip, I totally forget, but 2 really close losses in a row is really demoralizing, and I'm looking to hopefully get back on that winning streak. I think this is a great team, and I think we're playing it well. We're just barely coming up short every week, so I think we'll be able to take it on next week and hopefully be able to pick up a dub. Definitely go check out Clutch in the description below. He is obviously a new coach to the GDL, like I said before. I really appreciate him taking over. He's a great player. Definitely go check out his stuff and show some love on his video. But yeah, with that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Later.